How are you guys doing?
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To meet you.
So, really exciting. You got a big project coming up.
I do. I have the Marvel Netflix series Iron Fist.
That is one of my I was always a street level Marvel guy. I loved Luke Cage and Iron Fist. And I was always angry that they never got. When the Marvel movies came out, I'm like, they're never going to get anything. But now I think it's even better than a movie that they're getting a series because you can see them more often. Then you don't have to wait as long, and it's going to be this continued serial there. Were you a fan of the street level characters at all?
I love the street level characters purely because of the Netflix series. Honestly, like I wasn't that familiar with. I mean, I'd heard of Daredevil, obviously, but I didn't know about Jessica Jones. I'd never heard of Luke Cage.
Right.
I'd never heard of Iron Fist until Netflix started releasing press statements.
And then did you find out about the character Colleen Wing doing research just to see? So you obviously heard the part was up, and
I found out about the role before that.
Okay.
I had been looking into what entertainment Marvel was putting out.
All right.
And when I heard about Iron Fist, I started researching the supporting characters to see who would be in it. And I heard about Colleen Wing, and I thought if they make the Iron Fist series, Colleen Wing has to be in it. There's no way they can do this without her.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I sent an email to my agent saying, you know, if you hear about a character who does this, who sounds like this, yada, 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 that's going to be Colleen Wing. Because the thing about Marvel is they will never release the casting under the real project name or the real character name.
Right.
And so I said, you have to look out for these descriptions. And I said that months and months ago before Christmas. I think it was like summer of last year. And come January, I got an email from her saying, so there's this character called Christine, and I'm pretty sure it's Colleen. And I read the sides and I said, yeah, that's Colleen Wing. And now I'm here.
That's amazing. Wow, you actually...
I willed it into existence.
Wanted a role and you hunted it. That's amazing. And mostly people are like, this was a name. I wasn't sure what character this was, but I read for it. And this is complete opposite. And I find that so go-getter-ish.
I knew I wanted to play Colleen. Because she's one of, there are so few Asian American characters in the Marvel Universe, and so I really think that she's up there with the best.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, she just changes over the decades. She's just a fantastic, strong female character that does not get enough credit. So hopefully after the series that it'll become a more household heroic name.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. It's so far off now. I can't really...
So you guys still in pre-production, or have you started filming
it.
Okay.
We're filming it. I flew in from New York.
Oh, all right.
And I fly back tonight to New York to continue filming. Wow. We're about halfway through the run, so I think we finish in October.
Okay. And of course, your co-star is fellow Game of Thrones alumni Finn Jones, who, spoiler alert, he had the decency to at least die. You decided you're going to take on both shows at the same time, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a multitasker. Yeah, lovely Finn. I've known Finn for 2 years, and I have to say it's quite weird now working with him. When he was cast just before me. I think he told me like 2 days after he was cast, and I hadn't even started auditioning yet.
Right.
But I was so happy for him because we've been friends for a couple of years. But then when I auditioned, I did think, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, we're friends and we know so much about each other, so we're coming into the show with a very different relationship than most shows. But it's perfect because we have that history to draw upon. We're so comfortable in front of each other.
Yeah, you'll have that camera chemistry where people will actually believe it.
It's kind of worked out, I think. Yeah.
That's really cool. What is the filming process like with Marvel and Netflix being a show? Like, I just find it fascinating because I'm a huge Marvel fan, like MCU fan, but I think Netflix, by far, I think just that's.
They
I think
blow it
that's
out of the park.
Perfect because it's comics, so they're serial. They come out monthly or weekly or whatever.
It's the perfect platform,
And these shows, I mean, of course we get to binge them because they all come out at the same time, but it's...
I try not to.
It's almost like getting issue 13,
right.
like, or 10 or whatever. So I just find that so amazing. Like, what is how is this, I guess, compared to maybe a movie or something like Game of Thrones that's... I don't know. I guess maybe it's more similar to Game of Thrones since it is an episodic thing.
I mean, overall my experience thus far has been wonderful. The wonderful thing about Netflix is that their take on the whole Marvel universe is don't think about it as you're in a comic book show. Think about it as you're in a drama that has comic book characters.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
it's very character driven. Like, what is the end goal for your character? Would she really do this? Like, they take it very seriously, which is how I like to work as well.
It's grounded in like reality.
Yeah, it's gritty, it's edgy,
Yeah.
all of these things. It's just so much fun. Such a pleasure working with them. It's very different from Thrones in that, I mean, the only similarity between Thrones and Iron Fist is that you don't get the scripts that far in advance, so you don't really know the end goal for your character. Everything is kept secret from you.
Right.
And of course, I'm there trying to squirrel out what happens in the next episode, what happens in the next episode.
Right.
But yeah, those are probably the things I would pick out.
That's great. So is this going to be yet another set of fighting skills because you have to learn for Colleen, because you had to learn a whip for Game of Thrones and Spirit Warriors.
Yeah, I had learned Wushu for Spirit Warriors.
So how many martial arts and styles have you had to learn with your career here?
I think it's now reached, I mean, this is, I say learn, really, these are things that take lifetimes.
Right, you can't
to
obviously
learn.
master it, but
I
dabble.
get a strong taster. And the wonderful thing about the entertainment industry and when you get these kind of roles is that they bring in experts. So what a wonderful opportunity to learn from the best of the best. But now I think, I've done wushu, bullwhips, kenjutsu, karate, aikido. It goes on and on and on and on. And it's a nice combination of all those things. And the great thing is that even though I don't continue to do them outside of the show, it's like riding a bike. Like, yes, you become rusty, but you remember the lessons you learned, you remember the techniques. So I feel like every show that I do that I have to do something physical with, I get better than the last one.
That's
does
amazing.
Colleen get her sword?
You have to wait and see.
I thought I could
Can't
squeeze
give away
it.
all
Thought
the
I could squeeze it.
secrets.
Thought I could try.
Did you do any martial arts or anything growing up before doing movies, or was this like, oh well, I'm doing the show, I have to learn this now, and you just learned it then?
No, I mean, I have a strong like dance background, and I remember when I was a very young kid, I took karate lessons for a couple of years, but it was light, and none of it stayed with me.
Yeah.
But dancing was my main background.
Let's go quickly to the actually to Game of Thrones and to Iron Fist as well, because you can't give out too much information, but do you have to assume an American accent with Iron Fist?
Yes, yeah.
So
That's probably like the one thing I'm allowed to say.
All right. So I mean that's the mentality. I mean, because for Americans to do British accent, we just have to pretend that we've read more than 3 books in our lifetime. What's the transition from British to American as far as technique goes?
I mean, honestly, we have the American market is so saturated worldwide. So I grew up watching lots of American television. And you'd be hard pressed to find a British person who hasn't seen at least one American show.
Right.
Whereas I imagine it's much more common to find American people who haven't seen any British shows.
It's getting less these days, but
Less these days, but it's probably not the same ratio. So from a very young age, I had the ear for it. And then, of course, when I started acting, I knew that, especially as an actor who is in an ethnic minority, like the majority of roles for me will be coming from the States. So it became a priority to learn how to speak in an American accent.
And then when you took the role in Game of Thrones, Dorne, because essentially you have to create an accent for a made-up culture.
It's brilliant.
Which, I mean, it's
great because no one can say anything like, oh, your accent sucked, because you go, well, what does a Dornish person sound like? You don't know. No one knows. We just made it up.
Right. I mean, the style of Dorne is definitely Cordoba during the Muslim occupation of Spain. It's a very, very, with that architect, everything. So I guess you kind of go for a more Mediterranean feel, but then you still
vaguely
Right.
Mediterranean. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think that the way Pedro Pascal described it, obviously he plays my dad on the show. He played my dad on the show.
Right.
I think he described it as like Chilean American.
Chilean American would be good, yeah.
That's how he did it. And then, of course, Indira, who plays Nymeria Sand, I don't even know how I would describe her accent. It's very Spanish, probably.
Spanish, yeah, I would say she's Spanish. But then you had Alexander Siddig.
But the thing is,
Right.
Pedro and Indira were the creators of the accent, the godfather and godmother. And so we just had to go somewhere between, as long as we sound vaguely related to one of them at least, it was all right, especially because Keisha, who plays my older sister, is from New Zealand and is Maori. I'm British, and Rosabelle, who plays my younger sister, is from Rome but has an American accent. And so there was never going to be a scenario where we all sounded alike. But we all did the accents, and they said, look, you're sisters, you're not twins. And that's number one. And number two, in the show, we've all grown up in our various factions in different parts of Dawn. And so that just like how people at King's Landing speak differently from people at the Wall, it's okay that within Dawn there are various accents. But again, I think I'm not sure, but from what I know, to an American ear, it kind of all sounds the same.
Pretty ignorant people.
Yeah.
They talk funny. No offense, Leva.
And it's all right. Not taken.
Leva's from Kentucky.
I see.
I'm from Kentucky. I don't actually talk like that, but they all talk like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
So
whole
why don't you
family.
talk
Sometimes
like
when I hang out with my family, I'll slip out. Like I'll be like, I'll leave and I'll be like, hey guys, what's going on? Hey guys, what's going on?
So are you actually good at slap fighting?
Yeah, I mean, we had to learn how to play the game.
Right.
And it's funny, the backstory for that is that David and Dan, the showrunners, wrote that scene because they played it with Jason Momoa in season 1. Jason Momoa, obviously Khal Drogo. He played it with David, and David refused to give up, and so his hand swelled to the size of a melon because...
I was about to say, why would you want to get hit by Jason?
Jason Momoa. And so it was kind of an inside joke, like that they wrote that scene. We filmed it across a whole day, and I have to say, poor Rosabelle, who plays Tyene, because her hand swelled up to the size of a melon. It was not fun for her. Even my hand hurt, and I was just the one slapping her.
It's amazing.
Quickly talk about your theater background, if you would like to do that.
Sure.
Because, we take notes. Even though Spirit Warriors was kind of a big debut for you, an acting triumph was you as Leo in Running in the Creeks.
Running on the Cracks.
Running on the Cracks, that was it, Cracks. I can't even read my own handwriting. Running on the Cracks. You got a lot of praise for that, pretty much in almost every newspaper for your role there.
Yeah, it was very, very well received in across England and Scotland, because that's where we toured.
Right.
A lot of it had to do with the fact that it was written by a writer called Julia Donaldson, and she's kind of a national treasure back home. She wrote a book called The Gruffalo.
Okay.
So she had a built-in audience. It was my first theatre job, and I went into it I remember being at rehearsals and going home and like crying every day, like I'm not right for this. I can't do this because I'm not professionally trained to the degree that you should be for theatre. I didn't know how. I was working rooms with 2,000 seats, and I didn't know how to project my voice to the back row. So it was a trial by fire, but it all it clicked into place just before the performance. The director was giving us notes, and she was saying the same thing that she'd been saying the whole rehearsal period, and it hadn't gone in, and then suddenly it was like a light bulb moment, and I went, oh, I get what you're saying now, I get it. And I performed, and that was press night, and then of course the newspapers came out the next day, and it was like 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. And I had not expected that at all. I was expecting us to get absolutely ravaged. But I'm a very strong critic of myself. I find it very hard to allow myself to just be like, oh, that's all right. I'm always like, gotta be better. So I would do it differently, honestly. Even though it was so well received, if I did the show again, I feel like I would add more depth and more layers to the character. And
how long was that run?
All in all, I think that was like 4 months of my life, and it was my first theatre job, so it was intense.
Would you go back to theatre if you...
I'd love to. Being an actor in the UK, you grow up with it, and we have such a great theatre scene there on the West End. And,
absolutely.
I'm just starting to dip into the New York theatre world, because obviously that's where we're filming Ironfist. And I went to go see a show called Hadestown the other day, which is amazing. So I'd love to also work in New York, but it's all about schedules, really.
Have you gotten tickets to Hamilton yet?
No, but my agents, when I got Ironfist, my agents said, oh, our congratulations gift for you is going to be tickets to Hamilton.
Ooh.
But I'm waiting.
It should be in your contract whenever you film in New York. Tickets to Hamilton.
I'm waiting. And the awful thing is that they're going to change the cast, apparently.
Yeah, July 9th.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to get to see it with the original Lin-Manuel.
Well, you can see it like everybody else. They're apparently going to do a live cast
that's
on
good.
PBS for everyone to finally see in the nation. And it'll be Lin-Manuel be there as well.
Oh, okay.
So-
And then I'll see it in person. I wonder who they'll get to replace him.
I forgot his understudy's name, but he's been working. He's like ready for it.
Okay, but will he be as good?
It's always tough to say. I mean, it's hard. It's
Never
hard.
know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, he wouldn't. From what I've seen in interviews, Miranda is such a meticulous person.
He wouldn't allow it to go on without.
Exactly, unless it was
without
a perfect
cast.
replacement.
Well, good for him. Like, I have so much respect for the fact that he set his mind to it and he did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he loves his. It's great because it really is. It's an American history story, but it's an immigrant story, and a lot of people. I think that's what a lot of people get around it is how much immigrants can change the culture of the country that they come to.
What a timely subject matter.
Absolutely, there. So your what was it? Your mother is from Singapore originally, and your father is English, but not via England, right?
He's from Zambia.
Right. How did he end up in Zambia?
Well, no, he was born and raised in Zambia.
Oh, okay.
Because my grandfather is from Zambia.
Oh, okay.
And was serving in the Air Force over there, the Royal Air Force.
Oh, okay. All right.
So stayed there until, I think my dad was 13, 14 before he finally left Zambia.
All right.
And then I think he traveled back quite regularly, and he still has family in that part of the world. And my mother is technically Singaporean, but is actually, if you trace it back, Chinese. So I'm from a family of immigrants.
Okay, so
And
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm technically an immigrant now. I'm from England, living in America.
I mean, yeah, technically, especially on the 4th, I guess we would call you that.
Yeah.
Even more so, right?
Yeah.
You got any more questions, Leva? I don't want to drown you out here or
No.
anything like that.
I see you have your list, so I'm just
I always have
I'm just
my
rolling
list.
and just kind of asking stuff because I know we're on a timed thing. So
We got two people in the audience, though. Do you guys have any questions for Jessica? I don't want to monopolize the here.
we have a
Anything?
microphone. You can.
Okay, that's.
Oh, were you here yesterday? Oh, good. Yeah, it's a shame it was cut off. That was a really good panel. Great audience, yeah.
How's your con been so far?
It's been great. I flew. It's been nonstop. I flew in Saturday morning, came straight to the con. Well, dropped off my bags and came straight to the con. And I finished today, and I go straight to the airport. So it's been wonderful, but just very intense.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm straight back on filming tomorrow. So no time to breathe.
Is there a favorite con you like to do?
I honestly, I haven't actually done that many cons. I think this is my
yet.
6th or 7th, maybe 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. So I'm not too familiar. But I tell you what, I did Pensacon. Yes, right. Pensacon was sick. Oh, the whole town shuts down. And so you can't drive in the streets. And everyone's just walking around. And all the bars have themes. Like there was a bar which transformed itself into a Harry Potter bar. There was a Star Trek bar. The restaurants, the whole town gets so involved with it because there's nothing else to do there.
That's amazing.
Where is this?
Pardon? Even the airport had Stargate. Yeah, it's hilarious.
The airport had a Stargate. That's what he just said.
Yeah, Gate
the greatest
A became
airport ever.
Stargate A.
Unless your baggage ends up in Egypt.
If your baggage is ending up in Egypt, I don't think the Stargate's doing its job properly. That's not that far. That was probably my favorite con. Good. I'm glad.
And again, I know you can't answer a lot of things because the mouse is watching. All times. He's actually in that camera right there. She can't see it. Don't look. Don't
okay.
look. The possibility of the Netflix universe mixing with the movie universe. Your insight is probably just as good as the rumors on the internet. But have you heard anything as far as that goes?
Honestly, I get told nothing. No, I wish that I knew.
Would you love to hang out with Chris Evans?
Oh, it'd be great. I mean, those films have such a such a strong fan base. It'd be lovely to cross-pollinate with Netflix, but I don't know.
Right.
They tell me nothing,
Right.
really. I'm being
No,
truthful.
absolutely, yeah. So, well, hopefully also you are in the later series, Defenders, when they finally unite all of the Netflix cast up together, because that we know what's going to happen. We can talk about that, but hopefully you are involved in that as well.
Hopefully, we'll see. I mean, yeah again.
I mean, it might as well. I mean, you are the heroes for hire, pretty much.
Heroes for Hire, yeah. Actually, I signed my first Heroes for Hire bit of artwork today. I was so happy.
Nice. Have you seen? Have artists started drawing you as
Colleen Wing?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
She commissioned someone out there to do that.
I should, but the funny thing is that the stunt team on Ironfist made a poster of Colleen, and then they inserted my face onto Colleen's body.
Fantastic.
So that was probably the closest I've got to original artwork.
We're really excited about it, and obviously I know you can't talk much. And will you be in the next Star Wars film as well?
I think I'm allowed to say no,
Okay.
but that's not like a closed book, so hopefully things will happen in the future. I mean, the character had such a wonderful reception.
Right.
Honestly, it comes down to scheduling and whatnot.
Can you
But-
talk about your time on the set? For the
Yeah.
Okay.
Of the last film?
Yeah,
Force
the last
Awakens?
film?
Yeah,
Not
it
that
was
one's
one.
out of the-
Yeah,
okay.
I think this is probably the first con which I can actually talk about it, because this is the first con I've done since it came out. Yeah.
Well, perfect. We better jump on this opportunity.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I filmed it. I was on hiatus from Game of Thrones. I had 2 weeks off. So I flew from Spain straight to Pinewood Studio. Was it Pinewood or Leavesden? I can't remember, but a studio in England.
Okay.
Sat in a real, like they had built the X-Wing.
Oh, okay.
And,
so you weren't just into some box.
No, it wasn't in some box. It was a real X-wing, and it rose like 20 feet in the air, and they had
Wow.
to. Yeah, it was on a gimbal, so the whole thing moved, and all the crew had to stand back just for safety. And they spoke to me through a mic piece, an earpiece, and they basically said, "So we're just going to keep rolling for half an hour." The cameras were strapped on. We're just going to keep rolling for half an hour, and like that's all we can do, because the actors get sick if you go for longer than half an hour in that, because it's like being on a roller coaster.
Right.
And just, here are some line examples, but improvise, just keep going. And they had given me a lesson, so I knew how to shoot, I knew how to use the various controls. I really should have kept that piece of paper which had a diagram of the inside.
Oh, you should have
because that would be
framed
worth
it.
so
Yeah.
But the funny thing was that none of the actors could do more than half an hour, but I was the only one who could do 2 filming sessions in one day.
Wow.
So I think, every day for 2 weeks I went in and I did like an hour in the pit.
She's so tough. She really is. She's just-
I was literally like, don't let me out yet. And so that's why a lot of like improvised lines ended up in the film, actually. Nice. So it was
Because you toughed it out, you got more lines. Nice.
Yes.
And the wonderful thing was that all the pilots, we were all there together. Oh, a question. No, so they built the X-Wing, but then outside it was just green screen. Yeah, so I just they were telling me what I was seeing, and they were sort of narrating it.
When they filmed the prequels, they had like screens.
So you could see stuff? Oh, that'd be cool. No, they didn't do that for us. That would have been nice. We had to use our imagination. Imagination to...
I think at Disney they call it Imagineering.
So all the other pilots were there, and we all like talked to each other, got to know each other. It was great. Got to work with Oscar Isaac, Greg Grunberg. Like, it's funny because the first time I met Greg Grunberg, and he obviously doesn't remember this, I said, "You don't remember this, but I was 13 and I met you at a con."
Oh, wow.
And I think it was for Heroes or Lost or whatever it was. And I have a picture, because I walked past him, and I have a picture of him looking at my phone like that. And I said, "How funny is that now? We're working on the same film together."
That is
I was just a fan at a con. I hadn't done any acting yet. And we crossed paths. It's hilarious. He's wonderful.
And you Game of Thrones people are everywhere. It seems to be you always bump into coworkers no matter what set you're on, because you had Gwendolyn and
It's
Max
not
alongside
intentional.
that. Right.
It's not intentional. I mean, the thing about Game of Thrones and Star Wars is that it was cast by the same casting director, so that's why there's that crossover. But with Iron Fist, I'm pretty sure that they cast Finn, and then they were like, "We don't want to see Jess. Like, why would we want another Game of Thrones actor?" But I was pushing for it, so.
They just went over there. So, well, I mean, thank you so much for
Thank
sitting
you.
with us. This has been really cool, and we are excited for Iron Fist. I know that
Super.
much. She's been talking about it for a
Oh,
while.
That was
awesome.
my when I worked at the comic book store. That was one of my favorite titles at the time. I want to say it was like 6, 7, 8 years ago when
Oh, the Fist of Kunlun
that
one.
whole,
Yeah,
like,
that
when
run.
he had his own comic.
Mm-hmm.
It was really well done. It was so
Oh, good.
And then they even had their own Heroes for Hire comic. It was just all the street level had their own like. Titles and stuff. So again, working in a comic book store, I could read for free and not clutter up my house, which is nothing but like boxes of comics and. It was nice, and then I would always read that. So I became like a huge Iron Fist fan. I wanted
awesome.
to wrestle in an Iron Fist costume, but I haven't done it yet because I want to do it right. So it's like,
Leva is a cosplay wrestler, just in
Oh,
case.
wow.
Yeah,
A cosplay wrestler.
yeah,
I didn't know that that was a thing.
it's not. I made it a thing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I hope to see you as Colleen Wing.
Once it comes out, you got to do the costume now.
Absolutely, absolutely no.
And I would, and hopefully once this is done, we have you back, because I would love to hear the stories of what it looked like once because you got to do all these things before the special effects are added. How Finn Jones looks charging up his Iron Fist without the special effects.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can let us in on that
Yeah,
secret
hopefully.
once the film comes out there. So Jessica Henwick, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.